Today we are going to create a bowl using Inventor. This will primarily use the revolve function instead of the extrude function to create a circular pattern. This is a rounded bowl out of a sphere with a flat base for stability. So we start off by clicking File and New. Make sure that you have an English standard inch.ipt file. Click Create. So now we have our blank screen. So again, we'll start off by sketching the 2D representation of the bowl. So we'll start off with two concentric circles. We select the plane that we want to draw on, and we can select both our circles. We'll use the origin point as our starting point, so it'll snap to it with the green circle. Select one circle, go back, select the second circle. We will dimension them to get the size. So we want a 3-inch diameter bowl. So we type in 3. The circle turns blue because it's been fully constrained. We'll dimension the second one. We want it to be slightly smaller so the bowl has some wall thickness, so we'll go with 2.8 inches. So now we have two circles that are 0.1 inches apart on each side. Now the upper half of the circle we do not want because we want it just to be the bottom half, so we need to use a line. So you come over to select line. We're going to click on one end of the outer circle and we're going to drag it all the way across. So now we have the green line that bisects the line. Inventor has a feature called trim, and what trim does is it will basically take any line and remove that portion of line up until it intersects with a different line. So when you select trim, it'll highlight it. So I'm hovering over the inner circle. You see the top half is dotted. All of this dotted line will be erased when you click on it. So I can click on it. It erases the half, so we're just left with the bottom half of the circle. So instead of clicking on it, you can drag to erase multiple portions. So we want to get rid of the upper portion of the outer circle, and we also want to get rid of the line inside the bowl because we want to have it open. So you can click and then drag your mouse so you see a dotted line coming out of the mouse. Any line that the dotted line intersects with, it will delete, so then you can release it. So now we've erased both upper halves of our circle, and we're left with little line segments that connect the two, so we have an enclosed surface. We can't revolve it at this point because we need a stable base, so we need to create a platform on the bottom here for the bowl to rest on. So we can start by making a vertical line between the two circle segments, and we're going to use the offset command. So what offset does is it takes an existing line and it will then make a copy that you can move in either direction. So we want our line to be offset by about 0.5 inches on each side. So you can type in, when you click it, you can drag it to one side, it'll bring up the distance. While it's highlighted, you can type in 0.5, you hit enter, it'll move that line over and automatically dimension it. Do the same thing to the other side, 0.5 inches. So now we have two lines that are spaced by an inch. We need to close that in on the bottom to create the surface. So you'll go back to clicking on line. We'll click the bottom corner of the left line and complete it to the bottom corner of the right line. Click it. We now created the line, so now this is closed in. So we'll go back to our trim function, and we just got to clean this up so this becomes one solid feature. So you can zoom in. So we need to trim this excess line here. We need to trim the circle, that the bottom circle that goes into the feature. We can trim away the original line we used. Again, come over to the right side, trim the extra line segment, and trim the circle. So we zoom out, you can see now we have a circular bowl pattern here with the base built in. So this is all, the inside part would all be solid structure. But to revolve it, we cannot simply revolve this entire feature. We only need to revolve half of it because we'll revolve that one half 360 degrees. So now, even though we created all this, we have to erase half of it. So we'll make a line segment from the origin down to the middle. Use our trim feature to clean it up, so you just get rid of one side or the other. It doesn't matter. Just make sure you get rid of all the lines on the one side. So don't forget the little line segment that's going to be at the top here. So now we only have half of our drawing, But we also have this line here that we can now use to revolve around because that's the center point. So we can click Finish Sketch. It'll take us out. You can zoom out to where we have a full view. So now we're ready to do our 3D revolve. So you'll click over to the 3D Model tab and select the Revolve command. Since there's only one enclosed object, it automatically highlights it for the profile. So the profile defines what we are revolving to create our 3D solid. The axis is the point at which we rotate that around. So for the axis, you'll have to click on the axis button. We'll zoom in, and you will select this vertical line since this is the center point of our bowl. We select it. It'll give you a preview of the bowl. This looks correct, so we can click OK. And that's it. We have the bowl, so it's perfect half sphere inside. And then on the bottom, we have the little flat pedestal for it to rest on. So then this could be 3D printed, or we could create a mold for it. So that's it. So just save the file and let me know when you're finished, or if you have any further questions on how to create this. Again, just to recap, we used the circle line commands to draw our feature. And always on the model tab on the left, you can see the revolution. So this is what we did to create our 3D object. It highlights what that object is. And if you click the little arrow next to it, it'll drop down the sketches that go into it. So remember, we used spheres or circles to create the outline for our spheres, and then lines to create the flat portions. And we use trim and offset to trim away excess lines, and the offsets to create the lines and move them their proper distances away from each other to create our base.